Elizabeth Warren, running for Senate in Massachusetts, got some attention with this quote, and I'd just like to read it to you, and you tell me why she's wrong. She says, there's nobody in this country who got rich on their own. Nobody, she says. You built a factory out there, good for you, but I want to be clear, you moved your goods to market on roads the rest of us paid for. You hired workers, the rest of us paid to educate. You were safe in your factory because of police forces and fire departments that the rest of us paid for. You don't have to worry that marauding bands would come and seize everything at your factory. Now look, you built the factory, turned it into something terrific. God bless, keep a hunk of it. But part of the underlying social contract, she says, is you take a hunk of that and pay forward for the next kid who comes along. Why is she wrong?
Because she's a socialist. She wants the government to do all this. But the whole
Educate children is socialism?
Well, in a way, that when the state runs things, that is you know, a socialist idea that it should be collective. I preach homeschooling and private schooling and competition in schools. But what she forgets, she's right. You know, by the use of force, the government comes with a gun, they take money from you, and they build a highway that incidentally you can use because you don't have any other choices. But the money had to come from productive effort. She's saying it's the government. Who's the government? The government created nothing. The government, only they can do is steal and rob people with a gun and forcibly transfer wealth from one person to another. You take it, the building of our railroads in our early history, they were all subsidized, and most of them went bankrupt except for one person, Hill, who built the Northwestern Railroad out to Seattle. He didn't get one penny from the government. He was one of the very, very few, if not the only one, of the new railroads that didn't you know, get any money from the government and didn't go bankrupt. So I would say the opposite is true. Yes, there are successes, and we are forced to use some of the government programs, but it's inefficient. It costs more money, and it was done by transferring wealth, not by creating wealth. Governments are always destructive in the production of wealth. They pretend that they're going to take care of us, like, well, the government's going to give us all a house. Look at what happened to the house. The big guys all got bailed out who ripped us off, and with all the derivatives and the banks, they're still being protected. Middle class lost it, and they lost their houses. So her whole argument is absolutely wrong.
So in Ron Paul's ideal America, there'd be no public highways, no public education, there'd be no public air traffic control system. There'd be no public protections for workers in coal mines, et cetera.
Well,
et cetera.
That's an overstatement, because it might be a lot better, because a lot of those functions can be picked up. I think France has a private air traffic controllers. I mean, it's not like it's strange. The thing of it is, do you want government's inefficiency to do these programs, or do you want another source to do it? So that's a big difference. So I think it's how you want to bring it about. And I think private sources, you take roads. There's nothing in our Constitution that says Texas can't build roads. But Eisenhower, when he built the interstate highway system, he knew that he was on the edge of violating the Constitution. He says, well, we'll justify it because it's necessary for national defense purposes. So there was a respect for this at one time. But now everything, federal government can do everything at all. But there's no prohibitions against government schools. But there is no authority for the federal government to have a Department of Education and mess up our educational system. All they did was give us debt. Here we are graduating kids that don't know what don't know where they're going to get a job. They owe $1 trillion. Their education is poorer than ever, and the costs have skyrocketed. It's a total failure. See, we are witnessing now the failure of 50, 60 years of economic planning. The Keynesian model is a complete flop. And that is why we're getting a lot more attention, because our approach is completely different, and their failure is staring them in the face, and they have a long way to go to clean up the mess they've created.